Hello and welcome to Simply inTAXicating. We are back with one more episode on TARC. TARC stands for Tax Administration Reform Commission. This time we are going to focus more on the dispute resolution chapter. Taxation and dispute. These are very much like the Siamese twins. Everywhere across the world, in all economies, in all tax jurisdictions, litigation is a part of taxation. But in our case, somehow this is a little more pronounced. The soaring graph of tax litigation has put at stake the credibility of India's tax administration and has also exposed the chinks in the tax administration. We have four distinguished guests with us who are going to take a very studied look at the trigger point for disputes, the possible solutions, including the alternative dispute resolution solutions, and whether it's possible for Govt of India to go for a very structured dispute resolution long-term strategy. So we have Mr. Vijay Mathur, Senior Advisor, PwC. We have Mr. Sant Kumar Verma from Schneider Electric. We have Mr. R Sridhar from Hindustan Coca Cola and Mr. MS Vasan from GM Motors. So we will rather start with Mr. Sridhar. Please tell us, Mr. Sridhar, give us an overview about the tax litigation, in particular in India.
Roughly about total amount involved in disputes, whether it be the assessee or the department, at the indirect tax levels is in excess of over about 1.27 lakh cases. Now, I put all forums, I don't want to waste your time. That's the first thing. Second is, if you look at the number of crores that is involved in terms of hard numbers, it's about 1.73, 1.75 lakh crores. Right. There was one similar one for the direct also, which was there. And it came out somewhere after the Chief Commissioner's meeting. I remember somewhere they said it is in excess of 5 lakh crores. That is that amounts involved in dispute.
Yeah, the meeting was on 26th, 27th, right?
Now, and second thing is, but I always go by why there's a lot of disputes. I will go by the last indication of that World Bank study. Ease of doing business, India ranked at 158. And we are so much about BRICS. Brazil at, China at 91, Russia at 112, and Brazil at 130. That itself gives a real feeling of the numbers involved, because these actual numbers could change day by day. So I think if you see from an overall perspective, the numbers are pending because of the fact that we litigate for everything. There is no stop on litigation. Repetitive matters we litigate. There are n number of beneficial circulars issued. There was one issued last week which came up on your site, issued by the Central Board of Excise and Customs. In what conditions show cause notice should not be issued? Every aspiring chartered accountant read it. So, but I think we have not moved on from there. It still happens. So, I think, how do you think we would be different from this point?
Okay, we will come back to it. Yes, sir. So, what is your take on this, sir? I mean, you have seen both the sides, so the government side as well as the limitation of the official machinery which we have in place, and of course, the other side of the fence also, sir. Now, your views will be a little more, rather, more neutral and acceptable perhaps to the government.
Well, I don't know how neutral I can be on dispute resolution, sir, because the figures, as he mentioned, for the indirect tax side are no better for the direct tax side.
A little more rather,
and
sir,
the arrears are more than your budget estimates for the current year. So you can imagine as to how those arrears are mounting. They are mounting because of the tax litigation involved, and they are the uncollectible demands. So this is a situation where we are in a quagmire, and how do we go ahead from here? I think Dr. Shom put everything in one place when he talked about the litigation or the dispute management issues. He put everything on record as to what are the statistics and what is ailing the system.
Right.
So, in a nutshell, I would say that the system has been there for a long time. I would still work the system as it is, rather than to start something anew. Wherever we can start something anew and wherever we think it practically feasible, yes. But if you see, in the last few years, we started a new thing called the dispute resolution panel.
Yes, sir.
So, what happened to that panel for the first 3-4 years? There was a little bit of lack of confidence on the part of the panels to give any decision against government, for the reason that they thought that there is no appeal from this. So it took the government 3 years or 4 years to recognize that fact, that this could be one of the psychological or the lack of confidence issue. So they changed that, and now we have appeals being filed against the DRP itself. But where was the necessity of an appeal being filed against a panel of 3 commissioners who belong to the government, who are? But I think that was a wise decision because it was not working. So they tried to see if we can move ahead on this.
But see, it coexists. Maybe Vasan can perhaps throw a little more light. He has focused on the transfer pricing side, because in any case the DRP was designed and created for TP and international taxation thing. Yeah. So maybe you would like to highlight and add something to this point that...
Yeah. Said initial years it was more a procedural thing where they were just acknowledging whatever transfer pricing officer was passing, and then the buck goes up and there is no responsibility or accountability of that, and the various courts took cognizance of this inefficiency and then struck down, said that DRP should give a speaking order. It should not be just like that passing on the buck and say that no, it should not cut and paste whatever is told by the TPO. They should examine, evaluate, analyze and then comment on that. So then the government realized yes, it should be empowered, and that's where we started getting few favorable orders. In fact, we used to even comment dispute raising panel rather than dispute resolution panel. So it was more increasing the disputes only. In fact, when the TPO was telling 25%, why 25? Why can't we make it 30%? So that was the collegium which was recommending, and that's where they were stuck. And then government realized yes, they should come up.
But sir, you know, this the SOM commission has recommended that should not be abolished, the DRP. What they are suggesting rather is that this should be converted into a permanent body and extending the jurisdiction of DRP to even domestic cases. Why only confine it to TP and international taxation? So although of course there are lots of chinks which we are able to point out and it's not working as per its design originally, but Dr. Som says that let's stick to it, let's expand its jurisdiction.
I would say that it goes to the panel or it goes to any other appellate authority only when a dispute arises. I think in the administrative system, we have policies which are laid down in the law by circulars and by instructions, by rules, but it is ultimately administration is tax policy. So you must look at that what is happening. So many disputes are arising. Those disputes even before they are filed in the court by a taxpayer, they should come up before the Central Board of Direct Taxes should be able to get that information, examine that information, and in working with the government, they should then decide as to what should be the outcome of this dispute. Should we issue a circular saying that yes, this is taxable or this is not taxable? This is the view of the government.
Right.
So that is one way of being proactive. That is one step from the Central Board of Direct Taxes, which can happen.
Yes, we will touch this important couple of points which I would like to discuss with you. Maybe Mr. Sant Kumar Verma would like to add something.
No, actually building on to what I think friends on the dais have already expressed. I think if I just latch on to that number, it's more than 6 lakh crore direct and indirect put together. TP adjustments that are happening are 50-60,000 crore every year. I think the last year was 40,000 crore because of the indirect transfer issue got out of the purview. So these are mind-boggling numbers. This scares any Indian entrepreneur, this scares any multinational corporation that wants to do business in India. And as Mr. Mathur was pointing out, I think it's good to slightly dwell further deeper into this. What is the reason? So where the dispute arises, be it indirect tax or be it direct taxes, which is the key cause for disputes being arising? It's an assessment proceeding or a show cause notice or an audit happening in indirect tax, culminating into a show cause notice. You have CAG audit happening in the factories and they say something, whatever they say, on a protective basis, commissioner would say that let's raise a demand and let's see what happens. It goes in the call book and then nobody bothers about it, but there is a demand raised. So what are the reasons which causes the raising of these demands? Second, once the demand is raised, you get into litigation. Now within the purview of department, you have certain mechanisms who are supposed to address the dispute, whether it is commission appeal or DRP or AAR or APA now, an additional tool to have resolution. How effective they are. So that's another area which government has complete control over this. So if I'm leaving the courts aside. Why things are going to courts? Because these two are not working. So as Sridhar said, it on the drop of the hat there is a dispute. And then it goes in the pipeline, which is departmental pipeline in the first place. So the first two levels typically are departmental level. And they have no accountability. It's lack of accountability at their level, which further pushes this to the court route. And courts are clogged with these cases. So
in fact, if you see the basic foundation of this entire litigation, it's revenue targets. That's the main trigger for the department to step into and raise a demand. What happens is, if the government passes a law, yes, during your tenure, you have raised a demand of 500 crores. Please ensure that you recover this 500 crores from the assessee. You as a panel of people should be accountable for that. And your evaluation is based on that target being realized, not being target being pushed on. See, like in private sectors, I can just equate the government with the private. Okay, I come up with the tax planning opportunity. I put up a number there, 100 crores. My CFO and CEO will not allow me to sit without achieving the target. You are given whatever resource you want to realize that 100 crore tax planning opportunity which you have told. When you tell itself, you should be very clear in your mind that it is implementable. The same mutanda should apply to the government officials also, the commissioner also, just by raising a show cause and making a demand. And now with this amendment that 7.5% compulsory deposit, that's another icing on the cake for them. They will raise whatever they want, and then 7.5 is anyhow there in the kitty. We know for sure another 5 years it will take or 10 years it will take to resolve. So it will be my deposit.
Actually, this is like touching the raw nerve. So if we read the fine print of Dr. Shom's analysis and recommendation, in the analysis, in fact, the committee is writing that the revenue considerations and the whole appellate mechanism not being independent is the key cause that they don't have accountability. And he has made all these recommendations that they should have independence, they should, and that's how he has dovetailed this with the overall administrative reforms recommendation, that how the dispute resolution mechanism within the act, which is part of the departmental mechanism, how independent it should be made and what kind of targets, objectives they should have. Right. So there should be disincentive, for example, there should be a disincentive for them to raise frivolous demands. Today there is an incentive for them.
And you should not have differences in enactments also. See, if you like to compare on the indirect side, what's your central excise rate of interest under 11AA after 2011? It's at 18%. What is the 11th July 2014 notification on service tax interest beyond 1 year? I don't have to tell you the numbers. Because absolutely. Now, why you are creating an uneven base? I'm not saying that people take advantage. That's a separate issue. Wrong people who have unfair means of handling issues would have to be treated with that same stick. There's no doubt on that. There's no compromise. But first of all, your own internal legislations don't have equanimity. Why can't we have a tax policy on equanimity? Then if you're really thinking, why can't we think even differently, that for every stage, for example, we always think that there is dispute resolution panel has been formed in the direct side. Many people don't know that there is a review committee of commissioners sitting on the indirect side. 3 people sit. Sir, they look at the order of a commissioner. Compulsory appeals are filed, sir.
3 commissioners. It's a collegium of
3 commissioners review an order of a commissioner.
3 chief commissioners. Sorry,
compulsory appeals are filed. I'm sorry, I should not be using the word compulsory, but at least on an average appeals are being filed. And a commissioner is an adjudicating authority with so much of maturity, immense experience, so much of background. If appeals are being filed against an adjudication order only for the purpose it is being in the favor of the assessee, then how many number of shows TIOL will conduct to reduce litigation? I don't know.
No, absolutely. I agree.
This point which you are raising, one is of the high-pitched assessment made a year to year. But if you go into the high-pitched assessment, why is there a high-pitched assessment? Largely you will notice that it is because of repetitive additions made from year to year, without the first year having been sorted out by the tribunal even. And even if it is sorted out by the tribunal, we'll come to that, appeals are filed automatically if it's above a particular monetary limit, at least in the direct tax side.
Absolutely.
So what happens is that you go on repeating the same addition year to year. This year, I find, maybe it was there earlier, but I saw the Central Action Plan of the Tax Department, Direct Tax side, CBDT. They have laid down that you will bunch appeals, issue-wise, before the CIT appeal, before the CIT appeals, Tribunal, High Court, Supreme Court. Right. I don't think it should take very long, whether it's on the domestic tax front or on the international tax front, to find out which are the repetitive appeals. But there is no mention as to what they would do with this bunching in that Central Action Plan. Now, after you bunch and this information comes to the CBDT, that's the time when somebody has to look into it. Right. What do we do with these issues? Suppose there are 30 issues. I don't think there could be so many. But if you sort out those issues, you would leave some, okay, this is a very important issue and this could go either way. So why don't we leave it to the highest court to decide? Right. But out of 30, if you have, probably about 14 to 50% could be sorted out and you would get through the appeal process. Secondly, on the direct tax front, every time an addition is made of any figure, there is a concealment notice which goes out. It's like a default.
Yes. 271.
Okay, 271 1C. Yes. So it goes immediately. So when it goes, all the facts have been disclosed. There is an interpretational issue involved. Right. But the C penalty is also levied if the cases have gone above the tribunal level. Right. So what happens is that you have a plethora of appeals going up. Absolutely. So on the domestic front also and on the international tax front also, you have, I think, half the number are 271 1C appeals.
But so why exactly do they do this?
In fact, there should be an independent body which should evaluate, as Mr. Mathur said, should evaluate whether we should go on litigation or not. What happens because of this pressure that if we don't go on appeal, the audit may come back and ask us why you didn't go on appeal, why you lost that opportunity. So these type of questions will come after 5 years. So to be on a safer side, let us go on appeal, irrespective of the outcome. Sometimes we may even know that the outcome is going to be against us. Still, we will go. So that's the way the commissionerate looks at, and they know for sure. Yes, there is a very clear judgment from the Supreme Court. Even still, they go up to Supreme Court, trying to differentiate that judgment vis-a-vis this transaction, say something there in the appeal proceedings and then get stuck very badly and come back. So the entire process goes on like that. So that's where actually Dr. Som clearly said we should have a separation of litigation from that of the regular.
Creating, sir, a new cadre of adjudication.
So actually, if the system which had evolved was that there was a commissioner judicial who was appointed in each of the big charges. Right. Or even if he was in a the small places also, there was a commissioner judicial who was who was different from the line of assessment. So he was looking at it. But for him also, as you have mentioned, the easiest course is normally to file an appeal. But the fact is that even in the CIT appeals orders of 271 1C, where a penalty is levied, the Commissioner Appeals has decided in favor of the taxpayer that all the facts have been brought on record. There is no malfeasance, there is no undisclosed part of the income or anything, and all facts have been disclosed in the return of income. It's only, this is an issue, and so this penalty needs to be deleted. Even in those cases, because the amount is high, the appeals are being filed. So there has to be, I have a feeling that maybe it's a fear of the CNAG's office, but I don't think it could be so much that a decision on facts cannot be taken. A legal interpretation, maybe.
Right, sir. So apart from CAG, sir, audit objections, there could be other factors like vigilance also, or maybe even the performance appraisal in Government of India. They are not looking at the quality of the orders. They are looking at the numbers, the numerical numbers. The Commissioner Appeal has cleared 200 cases, or that is the target.
But statistically and theoretically, there is a document which is your annual appraisal report. In that appraisal report, you have to write the number of orders you have passed, which are the orders, etc. And the CIT appeal of that jurisdiction, and I'm sure the DRP also now, looks into each person's appraisal report who has been working with him or the panel to then write the confidential report saying that this person's orders were like this or not like good or whatever. So there is a column, but I don't know how seriously it is.
What is your feedback? I mean, this is the feedback I got that,
I think they can't say all orders are also bad, but the only way that we can look at the orders is, maybe if you look at the about last 3 years of judgments, as he correctly pointed out, I think there are so many cases which I have read in the last 3 years out of TIOL's website, that there is a jurisdictional high court judgment right on the point, equivalent to the Supreme Court, which is a jurisdictional high court, and we still take a decision to try and distinguish it. And he correctly said, they try and distinguish and make a mess of it, and it comes back. All the way back from the Supreme Court, you have made a mistake.
Actually, if I go again by what Dr. Shom's committee has written, I think he has made scathing remarks on all of this. In fact, there is one para which he has picked up, or the committee has picked up. They're also talking about the morality and the corruption issues, those considerations, what role they play in passing an order the way they are passed. So I think this report is very holistic piece of document which records every reason why disputes arise, especially frivolous disputes arise, and why either in CBDT or in CBEC we don't have backbone.
No, I mean, now the issue is that I think that even the officers, I have seen some very good, excellent officers, very honest officers, but not willing to take a decision because the ecosystem in which they are operating.
I would
not supporting.
Even if you go by,
I think it's so much that it's some kind of a confidence also. There is one is confidence comes from two things. One is the honesty part of it, and the other part, that somebody will not point out a finger if he gives the relief of say 200 crores. So there a person who is honest, he would not have any fear on that front. The confidence is also lacking from the point of view of knowledge, that whether I have taken a decision which is correct or not. So that knowledge base has to be enhanced, and that has to be bolstered by the support.
Actually, this is very important, like those who deal with the tax officer day in, day out. Like my experience of 22 years tells me, if a new amendment comes into, say, Income Tax Act or Central Excise Act or Finance Act 1994, which deals with service tax, it normally takes 3 to 4 years for the tax officer to understand and appreciate what the change was brought in. If I talk about state taxes, it is more than 5 years of time lag. So VAT, for example, was implemented in 2005. We are in 2015. I think Sridhar will vouch for this. In many states, the officer don't understand what the VAT law is and how the credits have to be allowed. Correct. So there is no incentive for them to update themselves. This is the whole problem.
No, I agree with you. In fact,
there is no knowledge deficit, sir. I think our people are extremely knowledgeable. As the industry, I think we have the highest respect for the Indian revenue system. We have interacted with people. We learn from them. The problem is not that. The problem, I think, is the targets that are being given, which are set as beyond realistic targets. And certain things also need to change in our approach, I would say. For example, you take a domestic tax assessment. Let's not become high fly on international tax. We have a 44AB report, which is a tax audit report. Over the years, we know how thick it has become. Let's not kind of go away from the situation. Over and above the tax audit report, if you sit down and look at the man-hours, a corporate finance department along with the factories or the units spend in assimilating what the revenue wants, I can't tell you the numbers it translates for us. It's not just go pick up a voucher and consolidate the expense and give it back to the department. You need to analyze. If there is a wrong thing, then we need to recorrect it and make a representation in that, though these expenses have been wrongly grouped and should have been grouped. So many things are there. So, but the point is, we never stop, we never know what we want. Should we then have a definition specs that, okay, an internal assessment of a domestic tax assessment only this much and we respect the tax audit report? Let's come to a conclusion. But then if we still keep on adding to the tax audit report, then there is nothing.
Nothing, yeah. So we will look at, a couple of other issues also, like, whether India really needs to go for a new cadre of litigators, which should be independent to the department, because presently, the Commissioner of Appeal, generally they are under the administrative charge of the same CCIT. Yeah. So probably that also influences, their thinking or whatever they'll compulsion. We will look at all these things. We will take a short break, and after the break, we will touch upon substantive recommendations made by Dr. Parsathi Shom.